Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the glorious Aquarius new moon, which occurs on the 29th of January for us all worldwide 2025. Now it's at 9 degrees and 51 minutes, so it's just in the first decan of the sign of Aquarius, but critically it's forging an absolutely stunning link to the planet of fortune, Jupiter in Gemini. So we have an air triplicity, which is really going to bring a lot of vibrancy to this event. But also Mercury, the planet which rules the second decan of the sign of Aquarius, is very close to Pluto, now resident in the sign of Aquarius full-time through to 2043. That conjunction also hugely influential because they're angling positively to the nodal axis. What does this mean? I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. I'm going to take you through this and why this particular Aquarius new moon this year is just so positive. There are other planetary influences feeding in. I'm going to share the solar natal wheel, which we can all collectively relate to, but also the event chart from a Placidus viewpoint. That's really interesting. Then I'm going to share with you exactly the timings for all the major cities of the world, then go through each of the 12 signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect for the month following the 29th of January. If you're new to my channel, it's great to have your company. If you have any thoughts, please share them. This is very much a community. If you've yet to sub, please help the channel to thrive and click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, please check out my testimonials. I work with people the globe over and it's a great pleasure. But see what they have said about working with me. Please see the link below for more. If you want to have a personal horoscope report and discover what the next 12 months hold for you, you can order that, but also get another chart for free. So it's 2 for 1. So for example, if you want your transits, but you want to discover your draconic natal chart, you can match them up. Please see below for more. So I'm trying to lean into the fact that for some people, finance is tight, and this gives you an opportunity to have serious astrology helping you plot your every move. If you're a patron, thank you so much for joining me. You can download a factoid on the new moons. So this Aquarius new moon occurs at 9 degrees and 51 minutes. So if you are an air sign or you have air sign planets, anything from 6 to 12 degrees in your natal chart, this event can be really positive for you because you're going to have a trine which really can charge things up. And it's not a trine just from the new moon, it's also the trine from Jupiter too. Now if you're a fire sign between 6 degrees and 12, or you have planets in fire signs between 6 and 12, you can benefit from those. I was thinking about who may find it a little more challenging this event. Really, I feel Cancerians and Virgos, what you're getting here is a quincunx. So for you, if you have planets between 6 and 12, either Cancer or Virgo, essentially what the new moon is a yod. And that could be a little more challenging because a 150 degree quincunx makes it more difficult to integrate energy. But certainly if you're air or fire between 6 and 12 or have planets between 6 or 12, you're going to really love this particular gorgeous new moon, which is just full of positivity and hope for us all. And the sign of Aquarius has a duality, particularly the first decan. Now, the traditional ruler is Saturn. The modern ruler is Uranus. But I think pop astrology particularly tends to refer to Aquarius people much more to do with those Uranian energies. Can be quirky, a bit changeable, need space, very future orientated, brilliant at times, very frustrating at others. But that duality comes from the fact that Saturn obviously is also the ruler of the previous sign of Capricorn. So there is in Aquarius people, but particularly in the first 10 degrees of the sign, there is a sense of continuity. There is an appreciation of established patterns, and of course it's a fixed sign, so there is a preference for sticking, certainly in personal ways, with what people know. So we have the Uranus energy, which is very dashing, future orientated and progressive, and the more resistant energies of Saturn, which appreciates how things have been or were, and they kind of battle for dominance. But because this particular event is right at the end of that first decan, I feel that the Uranus influence may be just that little bit stronger. Now, on the screen now, I'm sharing the event charts based on a solar perspective. And you can see that the Sun, the Moon, Mercury and Pluto, as I mentioned before, all in the sign of Aquarius, all in the 11th house. The 11th house is very progressive. But this is a new moon which is very much about us all collectively. And because of Pluto's presence, it really does, especially with Mercury there, which some astrologers argue Mercury is exalted, even if not technically known as being exalted in astrology. And I really agree with that. So we have an opportunity to think, transform the combination of Mercury and Pluto, but also set our intentions through the new moon in terms of our long-term plan, which is very 11th house, our connections to others, very Aquarius, our friendships, our social interactions. It's very much about our future, but there's a sense of change, excitement. And you can see that Jupiter, the planet of growth, the planet of optimism, fortune, the traditionally known greater benefic, is in the sign of Gemini. Technically debilitated. Yes, it's in retrograde through to the 3rd of February, but look at the degree. 11 degrees 20, arcing back to the moon and the sun. When the sun and Jupiter are in a trine, it's one of astrology's most fortunate influences. So despite the fact that Jupiter is not absolutely on the best of forms, it's as good as it can get at this particular time, and I think it can be very enlivening. Jupiter in Gemini is about quick exchange of ideas, so our connections to others can speed up. If we have gone through a period since the festivities of hunkering down, particularly if you're in the northern hemisphere, trying to keep warm, trying to deal with some of these very, very big events which have occurred, whether it is in terms of it's personally affected you, or it's affected you in terms of how it's affected others, or even how it's affected animals, then that's something that we've shared. And that collective energy is something that we can all draw together in a very positive way in order to spur each other on and help each other. So, for example, for California, if there's a fundraiser going on, we can all contribute to that, or any other good cause in the world. But the sign of Aquarius, having Pluto there full time now, there is a sense that things are changing, and we've known this because it's the 3rd visit of Pluto to Aquarius, returning on the 19th of November. We had 11 weeks in 23. Then, of course, Pluto joined Aquarius on its birthday, the 21st of January last year, through to the 2nd of September, before returning on the 19th of November. So we're very much aware now of the potential impact of AI. It's becoming threaded in, weaved into part of our everyday lives. But also we've got automation, robotics. But there is a lot of other discussions going on as well. And part of that is the energy that's manifesting in the sign of Pisces. Because Saturn, the planet which is very much to do with time, its Greek name Chronos, chronology, its Roman name Saturn, you can see that that's at 17 degrees in Pisces. And in terms of the event chart solar, the 12th house. So we are, before Saturn prepares to move into Aries for the first time for 3 months and 7 days on the 26th of May, it's given us a taste of the end game. When it comes back into Pisces from the start of September through to the start of 2026, when it moves into Aries for the longer term, we're coming to the end of a big cycle of time which started around about 28.5 years ago. By then it will be 29.5 years. So we're becoming much more conscious of the outcome of the actions that we've all collectively taken over that time. But you know, we have Venus exalted in the sign of Pisces, Neptune, the ruler, very close together, and the North Node all together, and they're linking back beautifully to Mars. Mars may be in retrograde in Cancer, it may be in its fall, but that combination between Mars, Venus, Neptune and the North Node, very dynamic in terms of helping people, but particularly around that situation in California, because obviously Mars can be about, in Cancer, the physical home and the actions we take to help. And the compassion that can come from the North Node combining with Neptune and the generosity of the money planet Venus in the sign of Pisces, which can be about very thoughtful deeds, then that's something we can achieve constructively. But Uranus is also in the mix as well, which of course is the modern ruler of the sign of Aquarius, and that's in house 2. But that links back brilliantly to Mars and also to that posse of players in the sign of Pisces. So although Uranus has been generally a little bit of a wrecking ball in the sign of Taurus full time since March 2019, but it's priming, its seeding influence in middle of May 2018 clashed with Mars, and we've seen a lot of ignition in terms of world affairs since that time. And in fact, strangely, when the square started, Mars was just in the sign of Capricorn. Well, it is actually exalted, but it then went into Aquarius through those 5 months and went into a retrograde. And of course, we've got the retrograde in Mars going on at the present time. But I feel that Uranus, we're kind of getting used to the fact that we know that our attitude to money, possessions, and what we're attached to is in a state of change. And if we can listen to our instincts, the Pisces energies, but act out things in a decisive way with Mars and Uranus's help, that can be a good thing. But that collective in the sign of Aquarius, very much about understanding our individual identity, but how we can collaborate and cooperate with others. So we don't have to put our own needs completely to one side. We can still go for what works for us. And of course, an Aquarius new moon, above all others, the sun itself is in its detriment because it's opposing the sun, the sign that's ruled by the sun, which is Leo. But here the moon can be a bit more logical, a bit more detached. So with Mercury so close to them as well, and the planet of change, of transformation, Pluto, there is a sense of freshness, newness, excitement and progression. So perhaps those Uranian energies are really calling out to us, and the Saturnian energies have already moved on. They're helping us to understand what the last 29.5 years have meant for us all. Now that's the solar perspective. Let's have a look at the natal perspective. On the screen now is the ascendant at 21 degrees in Gemini, the part of fortune alongside, exactly on the ascendant. That's tremendous. But it does put Jupiter in house 12, which is more reflective. But you can see the sun, the moon, Mercury and Pluto all in the 9th house. International affairs. That could be, particularly obviously with the new presidency, something to do with the need to talk and transform some of the relationships which have been so brutally strained, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's China and Taiwan, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, whether it's Russia and everyone, it seems, whether it's to do with the BRICS countries not wanting to collaborate so much with the traditional Western economies. We're going to see a lot of dialogue, but we're probably going to see some dogma as well, because Pluto and Mercury can be very opinionated, and Aquarius can be very boldly honest and cut through. The 9th house also very blunt. We can see the Pisces posse are all in the 11th house, how it affects us all. So this event chart suggests that there could be some perhaps confidential discussions, Jupiter, Uranus, departure fortune just in house 12, but it will have an effect on all of us. What could also be an issue is anything to do with the economies. So global economies are definitely going to come into focus. And I have to say, with Venus, the money planet, pretty close to Saturn, that's not so great. In fact, when President Trump was inaugurated, Venus and Saturn were in a conjunction, which does suggest some harsh financial realities being applied, whether it is in terms of tariffs, whether it is in terms of certain cutbacks to government budgets, which will have an impact on welfare, because the sign of Pisces is very much about that. But I did mention before about Pluto and Mercury being in an excellent angle with the nodal axis. Now they're just obviously inverted newly, the north node into Pisces, the south into Virgo. So the north node in Pisces is very much about the spiritual dimension. So Pluto and Neptune have been in a long-standing alliance for some while, and that's seen big shifts in our consciousness, and that's going to go on. But I feel that Pluto could in some ways surprise us. It can have some positives. Of course, there is the whole point of revelations as well, but we mustn't be too doe-eyed about Pluto in Aquarius. It's not going to be a panacea. There still will be the use of power to suit particular agendas, and because Jupiter can be about dogma and about viewpoints, not necessarily facts, particularly in the host Gemini, we may see some promotion or some themes developing in terms of how we all think and communicate, which do come more from people's belief systems rather than the hard and fast facts. On the screen now, I'm showing each of the exact timings across the world. Please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, and remember, you can order your 12-month forecast and get a second personal horoscope free. It's a brilliant opportunity, 2 for 1, but you can choose the exact charts you want, and there's a vast range of options. So if you want whole sign, you can go for that. If you want draconic, your soul chart, you can go for that. If you don't know your time, you can go for the solar option. Or if you'd like to speak to me personally, please see my testimonials below. Or also, I need to tell you that if you want to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, please see the link below for that too. I've also added a buy me a coffee option, and I'd be honoured if you would buy me a coffee. So Aries, this can be such an exciting time for you. You know you're going to get Neptune, followed by Saturn coming into your sign. But this is an opportunity to really think about what's important to you in terms of your long-term plan. We can all get caught up in life's processes and details, you know, whether it's getting the grocery shopping, preparing food, looking after our kids if we've got them, maybe taking some exercise. All of those fundamentals go into work, use up a lot of time. But the 11th house for you is where you can get in touch with what's more important to you in terms of your higher purpose. Now, having goals and ambitions is really important, but your world has been dominated by that in recent years due to the role of Pluto going through Capricorn. Now, of course, over the last couple of years, Saturn has been asking a lot of questions in terms of your psychological situation, or the things from your past that have caused concerns, or the things that you are bringing to an end. Sometimes naturally things just close off, and that may be all part of this big cycle of energy that's building up. But this gives you a huge opportunity to reinvigorate your situation in a very vital and exciting way. Your natural enthusiasm can definitely be given a bolt of lightning, which is fantastic. And if you do have planets between 6 and 12 degrees, or nearer to the 9 degrees and 51 of this event, you're going to be particularly benefited by it, especially where you can collaborate and cooperate. Your energy often comes when you take the lead. You're decisive, but you can also be excellent at bringing people with you. And it's not necessarily the person who starts things off who needs to manage a group. And that might not always be your thing because you need that constant stimulation. But you're the one who often has the vision, and your ability to think long term or to see the big picture about what's really going to work for you, whether it is socially, romantically, financially, or in terms of your professional situation, is really going to be enhanced and enriched in a massive way over the following month. So Taurus, having Uranus in your own sign since March 2019 and Pluto more historically back to 2008, has certainly been giving you a lot of food for thought, especially as you're a sign which does like that degree of continuity. But this cresting of energy right at the top of your chart, the daylight part of your chart, is your opportunity to seize a claim. If you have found, particularly with Saturn in your 11th house over the last couple of years, that certain hopes didn't get fulfilled, or certain people turned out to be rather disappointing, certain contacts weren't quite as sincere as you would have liked, what you're being urged to do with this particular new moon is take back control of your situation, but particularly as far as your ambitions are concerned. Now, I must stress, everybody's ambitions are totally unique. Not everybody is necessarily focused on the professional sphere, but if that is where you want to really go for it, let's think about Mercury. Mercury is about communication. Pluto's about power, but it's also about the desire or willingness to evolve. The sun and the moon together in Aquarius are pushing you into the limelight. Now, if you're someone who's quite a natural extrovert, maybe you've got planets in Aries or in Gemini, which make you chatty or give you thrust, then you're going to love this extra attention that's coming your way. If you're someone who tends to be a bit more diffident in terms of pushing yourself forwards, applying for jobs, not quite possessing as much self-belief as you could do, this is a fabulous set of planetary influences, especially as it could actually get you a much better deal, even if it's in an existing organisation or role that you're working within, because of Jupiter's fantastic link to the sun and the moon. So it's important as far as the professional sphere to really fake it to make it, have maximum belief in what you want to do. And the more that you turn up the volume, even if you're someone who is a little bit reserved, the more you tell people about your talents, your skills, your flair, the more they're going to know about you. So don't hide any of those away. Make sure that you're in touch with and connecting with people of influence, because you could find yourself having some very important discussions over the next 4 weeks. If your ambitions lie outside of work and it's more to do with the things that inspire you, all the influences in Pisces at the present time, I think, are really helpful to you, particularly as your ruler Venus is there and in such a spiritual alliance with Neptune and the North Node. And in fact, when it comes to those professional hopes, if you are someone who is very creative or artistic in your approach, those skills, or you do something that's to do with people, whether it's healing, whether it is nurture, whether it's caring, whatever you do, this can still see you gain greater success and recognition. If, however, your interests are the thing that's really important to you, or the people that you're very close to, don't underestimate that you can still take a lead. 10th house energy, although the host is Aquarius, is rather Capricorn. It is about having the confidence to be the person who says, look, you know, we're doing this interest collectively, but this is what I think in order for us to get to where we really need to be. So your leadership talents can certainly come to the fore at this time. Also, the 10th house can be about property, or the physical structure. So if you're wanting to make some changes there, particularly with Uranus in your sign, arcing so imaginatively to Mars and also back to that posse of influences in Pisces. This is a time to be very dynamic in your approach, especially if you're dealing with big lenders and you need to in some ways come across as being a very confident, able and self-assertive person. Gemini, you're at your best when you're using your mental faculties, but also your flexibility, your ability to pivot into situations very rapidly, but you need oodles of mental stimulation. This particular new moon can give you a desire to widen your horizons. So whether it is through higher education, a new course to do with your work, what you're watching on TV, holidays that you might book, or it is to do with changing up your routines to make them more varied, more spontaneous, all of that can be absolutely fabulous for you, especially because your ruler Mercury is so closely tethered to the planet of change of Pluto. If you are someone who's got something you want to say or convey to other people, perhaps through a book, an instruction manual, a blog, or you're wanting to apply for a job, don't underestimate the power of your language. Your ability to convey a message is always very strong, but on this particular event, because Jupiter is in your sign, linking so constructively to the Sun and also to the Moon, your confidence could be rewarded. Now, of course, with Jupiter retrograde and technically detrimented in Gemini, it is important not to overpromise and better to be realistic and then over deliver. So there is a little bit of a balance that you do need to gain. But I feel if there is something that you're really excited about, you know, whether it's learning a foreign language, whether it is visiting somewhere that's completely different, that's always been on your bucket list, whether it's about becoming more accomplished with music, whether you want to travel and visit places that can give you an enhanced sense of appreciation of cultural things. The ninth house is all about changing it up. And it's also about personal freedom. If you are someone who's been rather held in some way, and Uranus in the 12th house hasn't been easy for a lot of Geminis over the last few years. There's been lots of turbulence, psychological energies, nervous energy, which has been hard to use constructively. But I think if you're wanting to also be very open around your professional situation, the fact that we have got Saturn, the ruler of the sign of Capricorn and therefore the 10th house, in that part of your chart, but forging a very strong link to Mars, the planet of desire, in your sector of everyday finance. This is going to be a more moderating influence for the potential excesses of Jupiter in the trine with the Sun and the Moon with Jupiter in retrograde. So it helps you to come across in a way which sounds convincing, authentic. People can believe that what you're saying can actually hold merit. It's a truly exciting lunation. We've had a number of lunations over a long period of time which have had a lot of challenges. It's lovely to have one that has a lot of opportunities. But if one of the things that you're feeling in your life at the moment is a sense of confinement, boredom, repetition, the impetus has to come from you. The more you can step outside your comfort zone, the more that you're going to achieve what really switches you on, whether it is in terms of your personal interests and activities, your love life, or it is in terms of your professional goals and aspirations. So guys, just to remind you, if you'd like to order your personal natal forecast for the next 12 months, you can get another personal horoscope absolutely free. So you can order your personal forecast, your draconic character if you want, or you can order your draconic forecast and draconic character, but it's buy one get one free. Please see the link below for more. So Cancer, you're the sign of feeling, but also your sensitivities can mean that at times you prefer not to engage with the situation because it can be rather testing and you need to cocoon yourself away to feel safe. What makes this event this year so different is there's no player in Capricorn, and also Mars is in your sign. So your determination to transform your situation in some ways is actually very high. The collective in Aquarius, in a practical sense, can be about things like long-term financial planning, pensions, savings, investments, shares. But it can also be about some more sensitive strands like inheritances, legacies, wills. If some of those things are not quite in place as they might be, perhaps because you've had a lot of different demands on your celestial plate, this is an excellent opportunity for you to get in touch with a professional and get everything formulated in a really steady and well-founded way. But the 8th house can also be very psychological. It can be where big changes are going on in our life. Those changes can be where we have been very invested emotionally, where we've even been devoted. And it's possible that if something's shifting around a close alliance, whether it's a business friendship or relationship, or it is to do with a personal one, that change may not necessarily be completely easy, but what you do have is the collective in Pisces, which for you is the 9th house. Now Saturn's been providing some resistance in that area the last couple of years. Because Venus and also the North Node are there now, and particular with Venus, the North Node and Neptune all gathered together, your more spiritual way of approaching things can be such an asset in terms of dealing with any big changes that are showing up in your situation. So if you do need to have a heart-to-heart with someone, or you do need to consciously uncouple from someone where it's not working, that energy in Pisces can really support the energy in Aquarius. Plus, even though Mars is in retrograde in your sign, it's still giving you a lot more thrust and a lot more conviction that what you need to do is the right thing for you. And because Mars is forging those absolutely excellent links to Uranus and the posse in Pisces, if there is something, even if it's very delicate, this is a great chance now to really tease out what the reality is. And that's where Mercury and Pluto's conjunction will help you. You can don your personal detective smack and really get underneath into the subterranean energies of what a particular scenario is about. And then the Sun and the Moon together coalescing, linking back to Jupiter, suggests if you listen to your instincts, Jupiter in your 12th house, Jupiter loves being in the 12th house, that can help you to make some very smart moves indeed. But something may need to shift or change, which in the past may have seemed a little more daunting, but this time you have a lot of astral tools to make the right decisions for you. So Leo, ever since Pluto moved into Aquarius for the first time towards the end of March 23 for 11 weeks, you've started to realise that something is realigning. But the 7th house can be about relationships for sure, and with Mercury so close to Pluto, that can give you a wonderful combination. Mercury in the 7th house helps us to be a bit more detached. So in other words, if someone sees something in a different way, we don't necessarily take offence. But Pluto there as well will give you an amazing ability to cut through what other people are saying or claiming. But the 7th house can of course be about romantic interaction. Some astrologers would say it's the sector of marriage. For me, it's the sector of relating. And marriage is more about the 5th house, which is governed by your sign. So the 7th house is where we build the dialogue up. We are asked to listen, to be attentive to the other person, but at the same time say what we need from the situation as well. So we need to find that pivot point, feeling heard and seen, but also recognizing the needs of the other person. That's a classically good relationship. So with Mercury and Pluto conjunct, but also forging such a powerful alliance with the nodal axis, there is a chance for you to have some very potent conversations. But then the combination of the Sun and the Moon. If there is someone you'd like to bring into your world in a bigger way, then set your intentions. because you have a fabulous chance, but particularly through your social circle or your interactions, your interests, because of the role of Jupiter. Jupiter's retrograde has been perhaps a little bit challenging at times, especially in the first part of January because of the square to Saturn. And it may have seemed that certain associations have lost a little bit of their luster. Maybe you haven't felt quite as supported by someone or some people as you would like, but there may be other newer, fresher alliances that are set to develop for you, not just over this next month, Leo, but over many years, because of Pluto now in house 7. But remember, Pluto can also break down what no longer serves our greater good. The 7th house can also be open enemies in traditional astrology. Now that can be, someone asked me on a YouTube video, can the 7th house relationship be with your parents? Well, for sure, because sometimes our relationships with our parents aren't the easiest. They don't see things the way we want them to. We may care for them, but we have to deal with them. So it's a person who we need to interact with that we don't necessarily choose. So that can be, in a way, inverted commas, an open enemy, because they may challenge us. Also, the 7th house can be great for getting more competitive. So if you are someone who wants to up your fitness regime for 2025, then this is a great new moon to be thinking about any kind of sport which pitches you against one of the opponents. That could be tennis, squash, badminton, table tennis, maybe even chess if you're someone who's more cerebral. But what you're wanting is some kind of challenge. But your listening skills are really being demanded at this time. So if you are someone who's very focused on what you want to do for you, someone may try to seize your attention and make you more aware of what they want. And that may be something you need to lean into over the next month. But all of that energy in the 8th house suggests if you've got a very constructive relationship with someone in a business alliance, an entrepreneurial way, there could be a very strong business relationship that's going to unfold over the next few weeks or months. But just be conscious that Mars is in your 12th house for you personally, and it is in retrograde. And that could mean that some of the things that Mars can arouse, which can be old energies, old upsets, old sadnesses, old injustices, may need to be aired through the conduit that is that Mercury-Pluto conjunction. And that will require you perhaps to confront something that isn't easy, but through doing it, you could assert your needs in a much more successful way. Virgo, what a supreme irony this particular new moon is, because your ruler Mercury is right at the heart of it. It's alongside Pluto, the planet of transformation. I've been telling you for a while that all the things that you have a gift for, precision, detail, structures, providing services for others, are all up for a potential change. So having Mercury so close to Pluto on this event, with the new moon itself really urging you to think about how you can, in some ways, refresh all these areas, is really fascinating. But also Jupiter, the planet of opportunity, which has been checked by Saturn the first part of this year so far, and also for some of last year, it may be that some kind of professional or work-based relationship wasn't really flowing as well as you would like. Perhaps you've had to deal with a really difficult line manager. You work in an organisation which is quite unbending in terms of wanting it on their terms. Maybe that started to become rather tiresome. But your relationships with others, whether it's professional, through your work, through services you offer, if you work for yourself, with others, can actually really improve from here on in, as long as you're prepared to do your bit. And you often are, because providing services, being of help, gives you personal satisfaction. But one of the things that can be true of your sign is that you can analyse things so carefully that it gets more difficult to just draw back and see the big picture. And what Jupiter's asking you to do on this event is make sure that you don't keep changing some small details without a strong awareness of what the reasoning behind it is. But what can help you to see that bigger picture more on this particular new moon is the role of Mars. Mars may be in the 11th house, but there may be someone around you who understands you very well, understands your qualities, your talents, your gifts, but is someone that you trust. And the fact that they can actually give you some perspectives without you feel that they're being too dominant or actually too instructive, trying to get their way, they could actually be a genuinely good voice of reason and advice, because that 11th house energy can see Mars just muted a little bit from its desire to be the main person. So it's a great opportunity to speak to someone, therefore, who may have a bit more of a global view, such as an advisor, a trusted friend, or a relative. And that will help you to perhaps realize that some parts of your life which may have worked really successfully for a long time. For example, you may have done a particular job, worked for a particular organization, carried out an approach to your fitness and health routines which you felt has worked well. All of it is up for some kind of refreshment. And sometimes in life, and this is what I learned when I was in management, is that if we change 10 things, 2.5–5%, the big picture that changes can be quite significant. And that is something that you have a gift for, the detail of things, but make sure it's in tune with what is working for you in terms of your wider perspective. And that's the opportunity for you. So some change, I think, is in the works, Virgo, but it can be change that can be good for you. And someone, after being rather resistant, or you've been dealing with someone who's been rather awkward, suddenly other people seem to be much more supportive to you. So Libra, what a magnificent new moon for you. It gives you a glorious opportunity to turn up the volume, to radiate your magic to the maximum degree. Mercury, the planet of communication, very close to Pluto, gives you a chance to seriously express your enthusiasm. But the 5th house can be where we're playful, sociable, even romantic. But Jupiter, the planet of growth and optimism, angles to the new moon in your 9th house, which can be about travel, but it can be about higher education. Certainly it can be about opening things up. So if your situation has felt a little stifled in recent years, particularly because of Pluto, this is definitely a chance to really be very dynamic about what you can achieve. But with Mars high in the sky for you, that's asking to be assertive, to demonstrate to people that you're a cardinal sign, a person to be taken note of. Yes, you like to have those positive relationships, but I think this set of influences, particularly with your ruler in the 6th house, suggests if you have got some creative talents and ideas, but you want to meld them into something that can actually be workable in a practical way, what a fantastic opportunity. So it's a classic form and function new moon. But if you want to be more playful, if you want to reignite your connections to others in all sorts of ways, whether it's through interests, whether it is through your social situation, or whether it is through your love life, the next month provides a canvas for you to really express yourself to the maximum. But of course, the big takeout with astrology is, yes, the energy's there, but it's what we do with it. So the more that you're proactive, the more that you can make this work for you. Because there can be a sign of some Libran people, not all, which can analyse things and try to find just the perfect balance, and then opportunities can spin by. So I wouldn't sit on your hands. This is a time to be as thrusting, self-confident and assured as you possibly can be, whether it's using your personality power to impress a potential employer or a customer or someone you may encounter in some kind of connection, which could prove to be fun, engaging, and just the perfect tonic at this early point in the year. Scorpio, your two rulers of Mars and Pluto are right at the heart of the action. Mars continues its retrograde in your 9th house, so on one hand, that's pushing you to reinvigorate and perhaps be more enterprising and open to change, breaking out of anything that's too limiting. And yet on the other hand, the new moon's in the part of your chart to do with the fabric of the inner part of your world, your foundations, your home, emotion, family life, how you feel about things, your immediate environment. But this is a new moon opportunity to perhaps reimagine, perhaps become much more conscious of some habits or ways of being, because you're a fixed sign, that have become too static, too entrenched, to try to break them down and release yourself from something that's become too formulaic. Because Mercury and Pluto are so combined, if there is a conversation that needs to be had with someone close to you, perhaps even a tricky conversation, this can be an opportunity to do it. It could also be a time for some Scorpios where, even if you personally have not worked from home, you may be thinking about it from now, or perhaps a self-employed business, because Mercury is the planet of commerce. Pluto can be about money, certainly about transformation, so that's a possible too. Some Scorpios could be thinking about downsizing, upsizing, redecorating, moving to somewhere completely different. Some Scorps may even be considering moving overseas or spending more time away from home. But in some ways, it's all about trying to get in touch with a perfect place for you where you feel content. Many of us have somewhere that we visit that we feel that we really can be ourselves, but that may be something you're yearning for on an almost permanent basis at the present time. The collective in Pisces is also very, very positive for you on this event as well. And that's why, if you are a very entrepreneurial or enterprising or creative person, perhaps getting together with people, even if you're playing host or in your immediate vicinity, may be something else that can be very good for your senses. But in general, something needs to change. Something needs to evolve. You need to find greater peace. But that may mean in some ways breaking down a situation which hasn't quite been working for you. And that's not always an easy scenario. But the new moon certainly gives you the chance to set your intentions to go for what you really need. Sagittarius with Jupiter, your ruler, forging a gorgeous angle to the sun and also the moon. And Jupiter's in the part of your chart to do with your connections. There could be some really lovely, bubbly interactions over the next month. But they don't just have to be fun or even flirtatious, which is entirely possible. It may be that you've got something to say that you feel very strongly about. Pluto, the planet of transformation, is aligned to Mercury, the planet of information, but in the third house. So quick, spontaneous connections are possible. You often like to download information and share your knowledge. The chance to do that over the next few weeks can put to one side a little bit the more restrictive, restraining energies of Saturn, which I feel hasn't been the greatest over the last couple of years. It's been really making you much more mindful of perhaps the emotional bonds which aren't so great, and perhaps asked you to be very realistic about some living issues and perhaps to do with a property matter. But this is an event which really gives you the chance to shine. And that shine can come from your willingness to interact with people, be very vibrant, vivacious, zesty, and stimulating in the way you come across. So be prepared to be in demand, but there could also be the possibility for some connections with people you're very, very close to, such as family members. If there has been a little bit of a gap since the festivities, or it wasn't possible to get together due to particular circumstances, there can be a very joyful and uplifting gathering. Perhaps you're even going to play host. There could even be greater connection developing in your immediate community. But it's not just nice conversations. I think there are going to be alliances that actually make you feel more at home. So that in itself means the communications can be with meaning. Capricorn, a delicious combination of the Sun and the Moon in the second house, but also Pluto and Mercury. Mercury's the planet of commerce in the second house next to Pluto. All that investment of time and energy and skills that you gained through Pluto's journey through your sign, you can start to see a reward, especially because of the role of Jupiter in the part of your chart to do with a job or to do with a role which provides a service. There's a sense of buoyancy, of possibility. Also the collective in the sign of Pisces, which has seen your ruler Saturn perhaps not always the easiest over the last couple of years. Some of your ideas may not have naturally seemed to have gained much traction with other people at times, which may have been frustrating. But Mars at the moment in your opposite sign is giving you the confidence to interact with people, set your boundaries, tell them what you need. So some kind of improvement around your financial circumstances are possible. But the second house isn't just about the dosh, the money. It's also about how we view ourselves. What's our personal value? What's our worth? The more you work on that in terms of your inner thinking and personal transformation, Pluto, thinking Mercury, the more you can bring into actual reality and improvement to your circumstances. So even if you are someone who's a very steady, applied, thorough practitioner, which Capricorns often are, don't underestimate just all the experience and knowledge and wisdom that you possess. So it's important to think positively in order to bring positivity into your world. So set that intention in a very powerful way over this event. So Aquarius, we've all heard of the age of Aquarius. There was a musical written about it an age ago. Has it started and finished? Is it yet to start? Well, do you know, this particular event could certainly be linked to the age of Aquarius. What does Aquarius represent? Well, of course, it has got that earthy component of Saturn, the more progressive energies of Uranus. But essentially, it was linked to the concept, and this is the water bearer, of baptism. So it means rising above the more practical sphere and thinking about what really inspires us. That can be how we come together, the power of the collective. It can be through by collaboration, by supporting one another, by cheering each other on, but not diminuting what makes us individuals. So we can be true to ourselves, but also find ways that we can make those links. It's a quite gorgeous concept, really. And of course, it depends on where your personal planets may be, but this is a fantastic event, particularly because of Mercury in its conjunction with Pluto, and also because of Jupiter, the planet of growth, in the 5th house, which can be joyful, playful, fun, demonstrative, lucky. Jupiter in the 5th house can be about speculation and chance. Having the Sun and the Moon together in your sign, in the first decan, it's a powerful formula for success. And it's all about having the confidence to be uniquely yourself. If you're an Aquarius who is more governed by the traditional vibe of Saturn, sometimes it may seem a little daunting to strut your stuff in a totally unique way. If you're someone who has the confidence to just go for it on your terms, either way, this gives you the chance to raise your profile, be more dynamic, more thrusting, and it's all about getting in touch with your individual hopes. But those individual hopes and talents can certainly link to other people. So for example, if there is someone that you feel you could work well with, you could represent well, you could even date successfully, have the confidence to go for it. I can't guarantee a total success, but I can guarantee that the more you're in touch with the authentic side of your nature, and being authentic is very much part of the Aquarius equation, the more your chances of success will increase. And Pluto, in the combination with Mercury, especially in those first 2.5 degrees of Aquarius, which is ruled by the 12th harmonic dwarf, and that's a double Aquarius energy, really is asking you to express yourself, your ideas, with conviction, with enthusiasm and self-confidence and belief. The energy that's in the sign of Pisces can be about self-worth, but it can be about money. There can be opportunities that come from this event. Have maximum belief in yourself, but it does mean having the confidence to step beyond just the purely practical sphere and believe in what inspires you. However hard we work, it is about our passion, and that's really what you're being asked to embrace on this particular Aquarius new moon. Pisces, there are a lot of very interesting energies threaded through this particular year's Aquarius new moon. 12th house new moons are not easy. The 12th house can be about the psychological, spiritual, emotional sphere, sometimes the areas of life that we're not so keen to grapple with, our subconscious, our fears, our hesitancy. But because Jupiter, your traditional ruler, is linking so positively to this event and is in the 4th house of your chart, your home, your emotion and your environment, actually there's a mutual receptivity that could work very well for you, because of course your sign is essentially the 12th zodiac sign. So some of your energies are very much in touch with a 12th house new moon. What can happen with Mercury applying to Pluto, however, is that maybe something is going to be revealed in the next few weeks that may be a little bit of a negative. But even if something does come up which is an uncomfortable truth, see it as an opportunity to then create your responses to that situation based on, at least you know it's not hidden away from you, because unfortunately the 12th house can be where we're grappling with things that are unseen, the so-called hidden enemies in traditional astrology. But you've got quite a cast of celestial players who are supporting you on this year's event, not least Mars. Mars may be in its retrograde, but in the 5th house it's giving you a feistiness. It's also giving you a lot of sex appeal. It's also linking back to Venus exalted in your sign and also to Saturn. So Mars is very influential on this event. They're in your sign and asking you to stay in touch with what gives you pleasure in terms of your individual approach. Their link to Uranus and Mars is not to be underestimated. So as much as there may be something that you can't quite put your finger on that needs your attention, or something that may be a little awkward needs looking at, I feel really what this new moon's saying to you is listen to your hunches. And you're often very good at doing that. But this is a particular event when you can listen to your hunches, but then take action in a very decisive way. So whereas the 12th house new moon can be a cautionary note to perhaps shield ourselves, step back, withdraw, contemplate, and you could decide to do some of that, I feel if you really listen to that sixth sense, there's huge opportunities to make some very decisive moves, whether it is around your talents, your interests, your friendships, your love life. Listen to your gut and it will guide you superbly over the next 4 weeks. For this deep dive Aquarius new moon special, what a glorious event it is. Please check out my special offer. You can buy a chart, get the second chart free. It was before 30% off, so essentially it's 50% off now. What an opportunity. Please see the link below for more.